Alright, so Sonic Frontiers is less than 2 months away from releasing, and the anticipation is getting strong for this game. Will Sonic Frontiers be a good Sonic game that returns Sonic to his former glory, or will it be another bad or mediocre Sonic game? We will not know the true answer to that question until it finally releases, because when it comes to Sonic games, it could go either way. It could be really bad, it could be great, who knows? However, we can make educated guesses about the quality of this game. We can make predictions on if this game is going to be good or not. There's nothing inherently wrong about that. Except there's not a whole lot of information out there about Sonic Frontiers for us to make an educated guess. The marketing isn't showing us everything we need to know and what we want to see, so it's hard to trust the marketing, especially after the event that was Sonic Forces. To be quite frank, it's kinda hard to trust any of the marketing after Sonic Forces. I mean, they advertised the villains as this big event, but you only got to fight 2 of them. However, the big difference with Sonic Frontiers this time around is that they're letting people play demos of Sonic Frontiers. If you do not know, there's been a variety of Sonic Frontiers demos being placed at several events around the world, and just recently there was another playable demo of Sonic Frontiers at EGX London. So there's a lot of people who actually got to experience 15 minutes of this game. And as we all know, hearing if the game is good or bad from people who have actually played the game is more reliable than just seeing a trailer. So obviously, as a Sonic fan, I wanted to see what the general consensus was of Sonic Frontiers from this event. I wanted to see what people thought of Sonic Frontiers. Was it good? Was it bad? Was it mediocre? What's going on here? Unfortunately, I could not personally go and play the game because it's located all the way in London, and I'm in the United States, and it just costs way too much money to get a plane ticket and go over there. I'm not paying that much to play Sonic Frontiers. However, I do know somebody who went to this event and got to play the game for a very significant amount of time, who can go into great detail about the quality of Sonic Frontiers and all of the information that we want to know. He played the demo multiple times. If I remember correctly, he said 5 times. Yeah, that's right, 5 times. He kept getting back into the queue just so he could play this game. And to my surprise, this guy has learned a lot about Sonic Frontiers during his time of playing. So obviously, I interviewed this guy, asked him what's going on in the game, and I'm about to go over all the questions I asked him and all of his answers. So without further ado, let's get into it. Before we can get into the interview, however, I need to show you guys proof that he went to this event. Here's a picture of him holding his card, and here's a picture of his clothes. The reason why he's showing his clothes is because he showed up on a random tweet on Twitter just showing the backside of him playing Sonic Frontiers. I don't know why he's alone playing on the computer, but it is what it is. Let's just continue. Alright, so the first question I asked is, overall, how did you feel about the game? Was it good, bad, or just okay? He said the game was decent up until the tutorial ended. After the tutorial, the game was a lot more intriguing as a whole. And right under that, he said the game took it to another level after the tutorial ended. So basically what he was saying here is that the starting area with the tutorial was fun, but not as fun as when you get to the open zone. Which is kinda expected because if you have any experience playing open world games, most of them have very slow starts. Like if you ever played a Legend of Zelda game or a Rockstar game or Bethesda game, all of them have slow starts. You have to get through the very slow beginning before you can actually start playing the open world aspects of the game. I don't really like that aspect of open world games, and honestly, the only open world game that I think did it right was Ocarina of Time, if you can even consider that open world, so I don't expect Sonic to get this right. I don't really consider this a critique. It is what it is. Every open world game has a slow beginning. Big deal. Anyways, I followed up by asking how much better the game got after the tutorial, and he responded with, "The tutorial felt very linear and forced you to do things that was a bit limited. But on my 3rd, 4th, and 5th playthrough, I sped-ran the tutorial and got enough minutes into the open zone where my experience felt more enhanced and got me more invested. Just having the option to do whatever I want once the world opened up felt very rewarding after doing the tutorial. Just moments in the open zone, I actually had a smile on my face." Okay, so we're starting off good. This interview seems like it's going to be a positive one, which is good. I want Sonic Frontiers to be good. So then I asked him, what can you do in the open zone? Were there a lot of platforming challenges, enemies, puzzles, or whatever? He responded with, as for the open zone, this is where it gets interesting. In the tutorial, I already collected 20 Amy memory tokens, so I went straight to Amy. The cutscene plays where Sonic gets to free Amy from this like little prison ball. And he does mention leaks in this message, but what I think he was referring to is the Sonic and Amy cutscene that got leaked from the previous playable demos. Anyways, he continues here by saying, in this moment, you unlock the SA2 bounce attack. Y plus B on Xbox. After freeing her, she goes off in the island with another side quest, but I'll get into that later. Oh yeah, we certainly will get into that later. As for the other things you can do in the open world, you can go to Hermit Kocos and give them fruits for upgrades. More platforming challenges are quite longer than the ones in the tutorial. More puzzle types like the homing attack ones and the tile ones, etc. You can farm portal gears on Ashura just by side looping both feet and then finishing them from attacking up top. This rewards you with 3 portal gears, I'm assuming. While if you attack from above, you only get 1. I don't exactly know what that means. I don't know the difference from top and above, but I guess we'll find out when the game releases. I forgot to ask him what that was all about. At this point, I felt genuine freedom because wherever I went, there was so much to do. Alright, so there's a lot to go over with this information that he gave us. First of all, Sonic Adventure 2 bounce attack? What? He goes in a bit more depth about the SA2 bounce attack returning, and we'll get into that later, but this is kinda insane. It seems that the open zone is just about as expected. There's platforming challenges, puzzle challenges, and all that, so I don't really need to cover that. What I do need to talk about is the Amy scene he talked about and how there's a side quest apparently. I followed up this question by asking, so, you mentioned saving Amy resulted in a side quest. Tell me more about that. He responded with, so you meet Amy again, and Sonic questions her why she has a Coco dressed up like her. But this is where my demo ended, but I think Amy wants you to do something with the Kocos for her. It's a Coco side quest for Amy. Now, when I first saw this, I was like mind blown. A Coco dressed up as Amy, that's insane, but like, what, side quests too? What's going on here? So I had to keep digging. I had to make sure that side quests were a thing in this game. So I had to ask him, are you sure it was a side quest, or could it be possible that it was the main quest? He responded with, the game didn't specify if it was side quest or the main quest. However, from the Titan cutscene where he yeeted Sonic, on about that later, it seems that it's just a side thing for you to do for Amy, and it's not the main objective for the first island. So he's not exactly sure if it's a side quest, but from his words, it doesn't exactly line up with the main objective, so there is a 50-50 chance that side quests are a thing in this game. And if that's the case, that's like so cool. I didn't even expect this game to have side quests. If it does, awesome. Anyways, I moved on by asking, what is the main objective of the first island? He responded by saying the typical gameplay loop is beat Guardians to get portal gears, 2 portal gears per cyberspace throne, complete challenges in cyberspace to get keys, and enough keys to unlock Chaos Emeralds. I managed to get 3 out of the 7 emeralds. After the second Chaos Emerald you collect, the Titan cutscene plays. And he emphasizes multiple times in this interview that the Titan cutscene goes pretty hard. As he says right here, let me tell you about this. It was probably the best cutscene for a Sonic game probably since Black Knight. The first Titan encounter had music that was very intense, and it gets very climactic when Sonic gets grabbed and yeeted. The whole theme of that cutscene is giving 06 Sonic vs. Silver or Silver vs. Shadow vibes. Also, it has proper violins, which I guess that's a dope thing. Music is clearly going to be a very significant part of this game, as I can tell they put a lot of attention and care into it to amplify any given situation in the game. So we're no longer gonna have the Sonic Forces over-dramatic background music, which was just, I don't know, kind of cringe in my opinion. He also says that after getting beaten by the Titan, Sonic seems very defeated and deflated by how he's talking and his facial expressions. He even goes far enough to admit that he cannot defeat the Titan the traditional way, and says that he has to get the Chaos Emeralds and a bit of luck, implying that he even thinks that Super Sonic might not be able to defeat the Titan. The idea of Sonic doubting if Super Sonic is enough is just so cool. maybe we'll actually be able to die in this supersonic boss fight. Maybe it'll actually be challenging. Who knows? Anyways, I asked this for clarification. This cutscene played after you obtain the second Chaos Emerald, right? And he replied with yes. So there you have it. It appears that this game doesn't really tell the story in a linear fashion. It looks like you might get cutscenes after obtaining Chaos Emeralds, which honestly, I like that. Which is cool because you can still experience the story like anyone else and still have the freedom of an open world game. I like this concept. Anyways, the next thing I asked is going into the freedom of the game. I asked, how do you get the Chaos Emeralds? He said that there were some Chaos Emerald shrines. You need a certain amount of keys to get Chaos Emerald, 2 if he is thinking off the top of his head per Chaos Emerald. You just run up to one, press X, and a cutscene plays of Sonic getting the emeralds. Which we actually saw in the trailer. If you don't remember, I will play that clip right here. So it does line up with what he's saying. Anyways, next I start asking him about the controls. I ask him, how do the controls feel? He replies, while not perfect, controls the best since Adventure. 360-degree movement feels achievable. And for clarification, he did play on default high speed mode. And he added on by saying jumps feel floaty and a double jump feels like a double jump. Which, that's not really a surprise because Sonic's jumps have always felt floaty ever since Sonic Generations release, so I kinda expected this. Some floaty jumps are worse than others. I remember Sonic Forces jump being oddly annoying to control. I hope that's not the case for Sonic Frontiers, but let's move into my next question about the controls. I ask, was there any form of momentum? The big boy question. As you know, I'm a lover of momentum, so this question hits home. For momentum, the drop dash lasts a little while and you can get up hills with it. Sonic slides off hills if you stop accelerating. Rail momentum exists, there's just a default accelerating speed on them because automation, LOL. But when going down and up, you can feel when you're going faster and slower. There's slight hill momentum, barely noticeable, but it is there. This is kinda cool, I guess. It's not really the amount of momentum I would have wanted, but we got some momentum, so that's kinda cool. I still miss the days of Sonic Adventure where you could spin dash off an incline and skip paths. Like, that was peak level design. And a really good use of momentum, but we haven't had that in years. It appears that Sonic Frontiers is still not going to have that, but they do have a little bit of momentum. How I interpret what this guy is saying here is that the momentum is going to essentially be like the Sonic Colors momentum. In Sonic Colors, the game did have momentum, but at the end of the day, it was still very automated. Ho ho, but that was not the last thing he had to say about controls, and I saved this one for last. The next thing he said is, however, the same cannot be said with cyberspace. No point to sugarcoat, cyberspace physics are complete dog poop. Alright, I'll just say that. Sonic feels heavy, slow, no slope physics, even the boost feels much slower. You guys know how critical I am of cyberspace, so just give me a minute. Let's read the rest that he has to say about cyberspace before I just let loose, alright? The next thing I ask is, overall, how was cyberspace? He said cyberspace is harmless, but boring. Green Hill Zone is okay, Sky Sanctuary is just rail switching most of the time, and the 2D city level is actually quite fun to spam the drop dash in. Sonic's jumping in 2D is actually good now. Music slaps though. The music does slap. He has confirmed that the music does slap. That is one good thing he can say about these cyberspace levels. And the aesthetics were nice on the eye. Alright, so I'm just gonna say what you guys are probably expecting from me. I don't like cyberspace. And this only fuels my reason to not like cyberspace. From all of the players I have seen who have played cyberspace, none of them can really say it's great. Honestly, what this guy said here by saying it's harmless is probably the nicest thing I've seen anyone say about cyberspace. Like I said in previous videos, I'm not excited for cyberspace, and I don't think I'm going to have any fun when playing cyberspace. It doesn't look fun to me, it's just reusing zones, and the level design looks like garbage. It simply does. And according to multiple sources who have played the game, apparently the controls suck in cyberspace as well, which is beyond me why that is the case. Why not just keep the open zone controls in cyberspace? Like, that makes so much sense. Why change Sonic's controls to something that is obviously worse is beyond me. Maybe they want to keep the automation in the levels. I don't know. Point is, I'm writing off cyberspace still, doesn't look fun to me. The more I learn about cyberspace in this game, the more I am disappointed. So what I hope Sega takes from this is that the only unoriginal part of their game is the part that most people have a problem with. Maybe in the sequel to Sonic Frontiers, we'll just have the open zone and no cyberspace at all. Wouldn't that be such a great reality? Or at least new boosting stages that have good level design that are not reused levels. That would be cool. Because I'll be honest, the open zone looks 10 times better than what cyberspace is even trying to do. So I'd rather be in the open zone. And thankfully, to add to this, you don't even have to touch cyberspace. You can stay completely in the open zone, which I can imagine a lot of my playthroughs being like that. I'm definitely gonna play cyberspace when it releases, but after my first playthrough, I'm never touching it, man. Anyways, I've ranted about cyberspace enough. I'm sorry, it just irks me whenever I hear anything about it. Let's just move on to the next question. I asked him, was the drop dash fun to use in your opinion? He said, yes, I caught myself using it a lot in the open world to start attacks on enemies. Which, by the way, just side note, that sounds really cool to me. I kind of interpreted this as the hammer attack from Paper Mario where he can attack an enemy before battling to get a head start. That's how I interpreted it, so that actually sounds pretty cool to me. He also added, by the way, the best looking move I did was the drop dash into an enemy. Skid with a cool pose and then homing attack and use a flurry of punches and kicks. Wish I had recorded it. It looks straight out of an anime. Oh my, that hits home with me, man. He ended off by saying that's all I could do because it was a demo. I was limited to certain moves. I then followed up by saying, speaking of that, how did the combat control? Was it button mashy, combo heavy? What's the verdict there? He responded by saying, as it was only a 15-minute demo, I only had punching and kicking with the side loop, so it was a bit button mashy. But when I got to the open zone, I had the bounce bracelet, which unlocked after doing the Amy side quest. It functions the same as the SA2 one, with Y plus B on an Xbox controller. Which is kinda weird to me, because why is it Y plus B? That doesn't make any sense. If it's an Xbox controller, it should be A plus B, right? Like, I hope he's just confused with the button mapping on an Xbox controller, because if it really is Y plus B, why would they map the jump button to Y? That makes no sense. I hope he's just confused with Xbox controllers. Let's just move on. Anyways, he continued by saying, whatever the problem was, it would not work in the open zone. Maybe I did the prompts incorrectly, but during combat, it worked like it should. Except in the open zone, it did not work, which I don't know why that's the case. Maybe they don't want the players using the bounce bracelet to get to areas that they shouldn't be. I don't know. It is a bit of a letdown though. He finished off by saying, I see it being very combo heavy on the Guardians mainly, but you have to take out the fodder enemies with homing attacks and side loop. So then I started asking the important questions about combat. What button inputs did the punches and kicks require? He replied with, just the X button after the homing attack was initiated. So I'm going to assume that the combat is like Shadow from Sonic 06 where you just kind of homing attack someone and keep punching and kicking them. I'm gonna assume that's what it is, and honestly, some people might be upset at that, but I think that's probably for the best. Button mashy is not always a bad thing. Sometimes simplicity is better than convolution. Anyways, next I asked, did it feel nice to play with? Was it smooth, clunky, a mix of the both? What's your thoughts on that? He replied by saying it was smooth, not clunky at all, felt very natural to be honest. The animations helped it make it seem smooth. Okay, so it's smooth, it's not clunky, that's good. I then asked, is there a difficulty option? He said yes, there is easy, medium, and hard. I then asked, which one did you choose? He said first playthrough was medium, found defeating enemies doable. Then I asked the golden question, did you ever play on hard difficulty? He said I selected hard for the rest of my playthroughs, and because I got further into the game, I found certain enemies quite difficult to defeat because they're constantly defending and attacking without stopping. Such as Ninja. Every time I got close, he would attack me within 2 seconds. Hard mode pushes you to learn the attack patterns of enemies. So when you slack, you get punished by losing your rings. I then ask, so on hard mode, did the enemy attack patterns essentially become faster? He said faster and more unpredictable. But certain enemy moves give away their next move, you just have to be quick about it. For example, the ninja moves its arms slightly and that's when you make a quick decision to dodge or pull back. So it looks like the combat isn't necessarily difficult, but it's hard to master. So like you could essentially go through the game just picking up your rings and killing every enemy in sight, but that's gonna be slow, it's gonna be boring, you're gonna be lame, you're gonna be a bad player. However, if you want to get good, you have to learn the attack patterns and be able to attack swiftly. From my understanding of this information, it appears that the difficulty options change how fast the attack patterns are on the enemies, and that's honestly brilliant. Of course, it's still pretty hard to die, but at least you have something to master with this combat. Anyways, next up I asked him about exploration and what he got distracted by. He replied by saying, to be fair, the exploration is as automated as platforming can get. It's just that running around the open world feels very fun because Sonic is fast and he actually controls well. And when you're coming across different things like Kocos, Elders, puzzles, Guardians, and the list goes on, the open world or zone doesn't feel lifeless at all. Now, his comment about automation in platforming, I've always had a sneaking suspicion that this game would be very heavy on the automation in the open world, and it appears that he's confirming that. I say, better question. Should we go into this game expecting a platformer? Because that is something I know as Premi de Remy said, was don't go into this game expecting a platformer, so I wanted to ask this guy the same question. He said no, it'll have platforming elements, but it will not be the main attraction. Go into this game expecting a fast-paced, open-zone RPG with a base story and great voice acting and music. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not so much of a fan of that answer because I love platforming in Sonic games, and I like the high-speed nature and great reflexes as required to platform well in previous Sonic games, so the fact that this game is gonna be kind of lacking in that, I don't know. Kind of strange for me. I'm not saying the game will be bad, but it does seem like it's going to be a very different take on Sonic. I guess we'll find out on release how much the absence of true platforming will affect my opinion of this game. Anyways, next up I ask about the story. What details can you give us about it? He said it has a very eerie atmosphere. Sonic's interaction with the open world with certain things like the Kocos, Hermit Kocos, cyberspace portals, and others are presented very well and clear to show us that this is not what Sonic is used to. Sonic seems out of place in a way, where he doesn't belong here, but he tries to make his best to understand what's going on. Eyebrows are animated in the cutscenes, and not a lot, but it does show emotion and expression. Sonic's voice acting is different, but very good, and it fits the tone of this game. You can actually feel sympathetic towards him, and his emotions are conveyed very well. For example, his worry about Amy and his disbelief about being destroyed by the Titan. He was woken up after getting yeeted and he literally pants and breathes heavily like he thought he was about to die and looks horrified. Next, I ask, how did Sonic end up in this situation? Were you able to see the context of how Sonic ended up in this mysterious world? He said, nah, it just threw me in the open zone with Sonic on the ground laying. So I'm going to assume that the mystery of the game is going to be how Sonic got here. And you know what? I have a theory that I'm going to state right here in the video. I think Sonic Frontiers takes place in a simulation, and I think that's going to get revealed at the end of the game. Bookmark that theory. I'm pretty confident in that coming true. So, still, final verdict is that I'm hyped for the story of Sonic Frontiers. I am more confident for the story than pretty much anything else in this game. Anyways, I started asking questions to kind of wrap up this interview. I asked, what would you say is the best thing you experienced from this demo? He said it's a few things, to be honest. The cutscene with Sonic against the big Titan, the control in the open zone, the enemy variety, and also how open, lively, expansive, and flexible the open zone was. Also, the music slaps too in every department. Oh yeah, that's actually another thing I'm confident in this game for. The music is definitely gonna slap. Like, I think we can all confidently say that at least. Okay, other than that, was there anything bad or negative that stuck out to you about this demo? Can you guys guess what he said? He said cyberspace as a whole. Of course he did. I said, thankfully we can avoid it. LMAO. He said, one thing they should have done is increase Sonic's speed and make the level design more open to accommodate for Sonic's full 360-degree control, instead of just narrow hallways, and he also mentioned to fix up the physics. He said that would have made cyberspace much more enjoyable. So yeah, cyberspace is bad, whatever. He mentioned another thing. He said that he glitched under the map while fighting a shell enemy. He clipped in between the shell and the enemy, and it just caused him to fall through the floor. And all I got to say this is, oh great, this game sucks now, everybody go home, Sonic Frontiers is bad. Yeah, This game is going to have glitches upon release, and to be honest, I don't really care that it has glitches on release. As long as the game functions and it's not Cyberpunk 2077, I think I'll like the game. I have a high tolerance for glitches. I love Sonic Origins. I thought Sonic Colors Ultimate was pretty alright. Glitches do not bother me because most of these glitches that people lose their minds over are not that big of a deal. The thing I'm kind of afraid about is how this community might react to Sonic Frontiers having bugs at launch. Every open world game has bugs at launch. It's kind of hard to not launch with bugs unless it's a Rockstar open world game. So I'm a little scared at how people react to it. I have a feeling that if a Sonic fan runs into this glitch, they post it on Twitter, million views, bam, Sonic Frontiers dead. I could see that happening, and I hope that's not the case. And I'm just gonna say it here, just because he clipped through the map does not mean that this is going to be the next Sonic 06. We don't know if this game's gonna be a buggy mess until it releases. With that said, my rant's over, let's move on. He mentioned this out of the blue. He said an elder Kocos jump scared him. He went up to one and it transitioned into a scene where the elder and Sonic have a conversation. It first panned into a zoom in of the face of the elder and it looked really scary. Then it went to black and the scene started. I think this may be a glitch because it only happened to me. So this guy experienced 2 pretty rough bugs. Again, not enough to call this a buggy mess just yet. But the glitch was not what I was concerned with. What I was concerned with was the fact that Sonic and the Elder had a conversation. I didn't even know those guys could speak. So I asked, does the Elder have a voice? He said, yes. And I said, bro, what? How does it sound? And he said it has weird groans. To which then I asked, does it even speak English? He said, nah. It has its own language, but somehow Sonic understands it for some reason. And you know, it's kind of understandable why they have their own language, and it's kind of weird that Sonic understands their language, but I find it kind of charming. It's kind of like the old cartoons where a human will talk to a cat, and the cat's just meowing, and the human's speaking English. It's kind of charming, you know? Anyways, I ended the interview by saying, last question. Are you confident in Sonic Frontiers being good? Also, what rating out of 10 would you give it from the demo you played? He said, I'm confident that it will at least be a 7 out of 10 for everyone. For me, the experience as a whole was a 8.5. It increased my optimism, and I think the game for me will be a 8.5 out of 9. Why do you say out of 9? The climax of the game and ending may make it peak storytelling, so potentially it might reach 9.5. The experience as a whole, 8.5. Cyberspace and basic platforming took it down. I said, alright, sweet. I'm gonna go record, which is exactly what I did. Anyways, my thoughts from this interview is kinda good, kinda mixed. There's obviously some things I don't like, such as cyberspace and the basic platforming, but it sounds like this game will at least be decent. Now, obviously, the game could still come out complete garbo, and that is a true possibility that could happen, but I'm more confident in this game than I was before. The main 2 things that I will be looking out for this game is if it gets repetitive and if there is enough replay value. The thing I've noticed is that this game relies a lot on the same kind of exploration and the same kind of enemies, and that is good at first, but I wonder if it'll get repetitive after, say, the 3rd island. This game is supposedly supposed to be 20 to 30 hours. Can we stay interested for that long with this style of gameplay? That's something I'm interested in seeing. For replay value, the reason why I'm interested in that is because while we do get to choose what paths we want to take to finish the game, a lot of the paths are automated. The cyberspace levels are very automated, and the basic platforming seems to be very automated as well. So my question is, on repeat playthroughs, will we have fun doing the same automated platforming and cyberspace levels? These are things I am considering right now, and these are the 2 things that I think could kill Sonic Frontiers. These reasons could be the downfall of this game, and it's very possible that it could happen. But will that happen? I don't know. We'll have to see when the game finally comes out. Overall, I'm feeling good about the game. I'm feeling hyped. Sonic Frontiers, the juices are flowing towards me. Of course, I'm gonna stay optimistic and skeptical at the same time. I will never say this game is going to be good until it releases. Alright, I have trust issues. I am rooting for Sonic Frontiers to go out there and smash it. I want this game to be a masterpiece. It probably won't be a masterpiece because of cyberspace, but If we can at least reach an 8 out of 10, we're ballin'. Even a 7 out of 10, that's still a win in my opinion. Anyways, that's all I have to say for today. I do have 2 videos completely made. They're finished. I have not released them yet due to contractual obligations, but they will be released soon. I obviously can't release those videos yet, so that's kind of why I haven't uploaded for the past week. I'm sorry about that, guys, but trust me, I will make it worthwhile. The Sonic CD video is coming out soon. I know you guys wait a long time for that, so it's finally here. Anyways, with that said, make sure to like, comment, favorite, subscribe, and hit post notifications on if you want to be notified of my future Sonic content. Anyways, I love you guys. Adios. My channel members are Epic Gaming with George, Reese, Nix, JaneXV, Ethan K78, Junior Ring, Sonic Man 715, ArcherXYZ, Sonic Up, Thomas Moonrai, Chip Chap Chop, Escape, The Squeaker Nerd, Super Shacks Boom, Sonic Extreme, and Super Saiyan Sonic. Thank you all for supporting the channel. Make sure to click one of the end card screen videos here. Love you guys. Peace out.